another Coffee with Colm, and thank you for joining me. This week I want to talk to you about emotional intelligence. So during the week I had the great privilege of talking to some students from secondary schools local to us, and they came for a talk and a tour. And during my talk with some 17-year-olds, I was explaining to them my philosophy that they're in school for two fundamental reasons only. And the two reasons are to learn how to learn. That's the first one. They're in school to learn how to learn. And the system, of course, uses maths and geography and Irish and English and history and all those other subjects to teach them the skills of learning how to learn. And the second skill they're in school to learn is how to work with other people. So learn how to learn how to work with other people. And I suggested to them that if they master both of those skills, well then life will be somewhat easier, because if they learn how to learn, well then they can learn anything. And if they learn how to work with other people, well then they can learn how to work with other people anywhere in the world. So learn how to learn how to work with other people. And it reminded me that 15% of our success comes from our technical ability, in other words, the stuff that we learned how to learn, and 85% of our success comes from us learning how to work with other people. So on that basis, learning how to learn, IQ, the intelligence quotient, is very important, clearly, but far more important is EQ, or emotional intelligence, because it's 5 times more important in terms of our overall success in life. And school itself is a microcosm of life. School is like life in training. It's like training mode in any of these video games that we see the youngsters playing today. So school is like that. School has all of the factors of life, but just in microcosm. It has other people. It has taller people and smaller people and prettier people and less pretty people and nice people and not so nice people. And it has hierarchy. It has principal and deputy principal and, you know, teachers, SNAs, the caretaker, and of course everybody's favourite, the lollipop lady or the lollipop man. But it really is life in microcosm. And within the classroom then you've got competition between individuals, you've got competition between classes, you've got competition between schools, in fact, whether it's through choir or debating or sport or whatever. So really and truly school is exactly that. It is the school of life. It's teaching our youngsters how to cope with and develop the skills that they're going to need as they navigate their way through later life. And on the basis that only 15% of their success in future life will come from their technical ability, in other words, their ability to learn how to learn, and 85%, 5 times more, will come from their EQ, or their ability to get along with others, well then it really is important for us to impress upon our next generation that they really need to figure out how to work with other people. It sort of goes somewhat to explain that somewhat comical saying that A students report to B students, who report to C students, who report to D students, who own the company. And what's that about? Well, perhaps it speaks to the fact that A students typically are very academic, and they've mastered the skill of learning how to learn and then to regurgitate same in an exam situation. But in reality, how many times have you and I had to quote Pythagoras' theorem or quote Hamlet by rote in later life? You know, truthfully, very few of us have, and any of us that have, it's not very often. So really and truly, we are in school to learn how to learn, and we're in school to learn how to work with other people. Over the last number of weeks, I've been talking to you about some of my experiences at Pendulum Summit in Dublin recently. And one of the speakers was a guy called Martin Newman, Dr. Martin Newman. He is a clinical psychologist in the area of emotional intelligence. And he spoke about the 10 elements that, 10 skill sets that most successful people share in common. And then he broke those 10 down and suggested there are in fact 3 of them are perhaps most important overall. And those 3 are self-reliance, self-confidence and optimism. Self-reliance, self-confidence and optimism. And then he further distilled them down into 2 pillars, and he spoke about the 2 pillars being self-liking and self-competence. Self-liking and self-competence. In other words, for us to be successful, we must like ourselves and we must believe ourselves to be competent. He went on to tell a quick story, and I'll try relate it if I may, or at least I'll relate my understanding of his story. And he spoke about a young girl who goes out to play one day, and she sees this tall tree in the garden and decides, in her infinite naivety or wisdom, that she's going to climb the tree to the very top. And she likes herself and she believes herself competent to do same. She is optimistic that she can get to the top. She's self-reliant. She reckons she can do it on her own, and she's self-confident. She believes that she will actually make it to the top. So off she goes and she climbs the tree right up to the very top. And her mother comes out right? And she's confronted with this scene, young girl at the top of the tree, and she has one of two responses. She can either shriek in horror and say, "Get down here, you, before you kill yourself, and wait till your father comes home." And of course the child gets rattled and has to make her way all the way down the tree, and the joy of her climbing the tree is clearly gone, and she gets to the bottom and she's got a mother who's scolding her for being so irresponsible and putting herself in danger. She could have been killed, and wait till her father gets home, she's going to be in big trouble. Okay? And then the second response the mother could have had is, "My goodness, how did you get all the way up there? Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Would you not come down? We'll have some lemonade." And of course the child can then safely navigate her way down the tree, and they have some lemonade, and the mother can say something like, "My goodness, you did really well to get all the way up there. And how was it? It was great. Well, listen, next time you want to do that, you might just give me a shout and let me come out and let me watch you climb the tree." And what's the mother doing there? She's encouraging the child, but she's also putting some safeguards around it. In other words, she wants to be told so she can stand there and guide and take care of the child as she climbs. And there are two different lessons that the child can take from either of the two mothers, right? The shrieking mother is teaching her child that it's dangerous out there, it's a dangerous world, and she's got to exercise caution at all times. And the other mother is in fact teaching the child that, do you know what, it's a great world out there, there's lots of adventure to be had, but you just have to be careful how you go about it. Two very different messages. And you really would wonder how that young girl, depending on the circumstance of the mother, you really would wonder how that young girl is going to go out the very next day and play. Is she going to go out full of life and full of adventure and looking for excitement, although she's aware that her mother's there to support her at all times? Or is she actually going to step out timidly and perhaps miss out on life's big adventures? So we really have to be very careful how we treat our children and what we teach them about the world that they inhabit. So we'll go back to Dr. Martin Newman and his 10 skill sets that most successful people share in common, and the three most important: self-reliance, self-confidence and optimism. And so the question I want to pose for you today, please, is on a scale of 1 to 10, how self-reliant are you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how self-confident are you? Now that's not arrogance, but it's a self-confidence. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how optimistic are you for the future? Because if you can score yourself on your self-reliance, your self-confidence and your optimism, and let's say you're hovering around 5 or 6 on one or two of them and 7 or 8 on another one or two of them, well then perhaps it's time for you to do something about it. And the great news from today's Coffee with Colm is that your future success, as I said to the kids during the week, your future success is only 15% dependent on your IQ, and it's 85% dependent on your EQ. It's only 15% dependent on your technical ability in your chosen field, and it's 5 times more likely to come from your ability to work with other people or your emotional intelligence. And the great news is that you can work on your emotional intelligence every single day. And thank you for joining me for this week's Coffee with Colm. I hope and trust that you got something from it. If you've enjoyed it and you think somebody else would benefit, I'd be delighted if you'd pass the link on. Please share the link. If you've enjoyed it and it's your first time here and you want more, well then go to the homepage, ColmO'BrienMotivation.com, leave me some details and I'll make sure you get a link like this on a weekly basis. Most importantly, please consider what I've shared here today and apply it into your thinking for this next week. And then equally as importantly, please come back next week and let's share another coffee together, and I'll share another lesson that I'm learning as I journey, in the hopes that it'll benefit you in the long run. In the meantime, get some good coffee if you can, get some fresh air, get some R&R. If you spend a lot of time alone, I recommend you go meet some people. And likewise, conversely, if you spend a lot of time with people, I really do recommend that you spend a little bit of time alone and get to meet yourself. But when the time is right, and only when the time is right, get your head back in the game, get organised for the week ahead and make next week count, and I'll see you here this time next week. Sláinte. Really love great coffee. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.